You've got ideas, you've got ambition, you've got no time, or so you think. I'm Marissa Lonick, and I help busy moms with big dreams and no time. Join me each week as I dive into time management strategies, goal setting and achieving framework, and inspiring guests who are juggling mom life, work life, fill in the blank life. Dreams don't work unless you do, and just because you're a mom doesn't mean you can't still make it happen, whatever it means to you. Welcome to the Mama Work It podcast. Hello, mamas, and welcome back to another episode of the Mama Work It podcast. I am so excited you're here, and I know today's show is going to resonate with you if you're a working mom looking for a career shift, or if you're thinking of heading back into the working mom world after taking a pause to be home with your kids. So my guest today is Jenny Galluzzo, co-founder of The Second Shift, a community focused on the empowerment of women through work. Jenny is fiercely dedicated to shifting the path forward for women, encouraging them to forge their own career paths with confidence, intention, and optimism. As head of community, Jenny curates events across the country to bring members and business partners together, and she and her team are in close contact with members during the application process and beyond. As head of brand, she sets the strategy for messaging, communications, and content. Jenny has also used The Second Shift as an opportunity to connect with and help women beyond members, speaking regularly about career transitions, gender equity in the workforce, and becoming an agent for change. Prior to starting The Second Shift, Jenny spent many years in journalism, researching, writing, hosting, and producing for Good Morning America, News 12, and Plum TV. Jenny, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Marissa. I'm so happy to be here. This is so fun.
Yeah. So first things first, I would love for you to tell us a little more about you and what sparked you to start The Second Shift.
As you mentioned, I worked in journalism for a very long time, and that was my dedicated career path. I was going to be Diane Sawyer no matter what, and that is all I wanted. And then life changes and priorities change, and you have children, and the TV world changed just in the way that how it's the schedule is and the timing and life. And I found myself in a position where I wasn't going to be Diane Sawyer. And so what was I going to be if I wasn't going to be Diane Sawyer? I didn't want to be nothing. I wasn't looking to completely check out of the workforce, and I had to figure out a way to transition my skills. And I found it very difficult to figure out. Again, this is in 2013. It was a really different time period than it is now. The resources were really different. And I found it really a struggle. I knew Gina, my partner, and she was in a similar place, but for totally different reasons. And we decided to solve the problem ourselves, to figure out a way to connect high achieving, smart, dedicated, ambitious women who might need more flexibility or wanted to transition careers to companies that would be interested in hiring them. And we just thought there had to be an easier solution. And so we created it. And that's The Second Shift.
Yeah. So you experienced this problem. I'm sure many women in your circle were experiencing this problem. And you're like, well, I'm just going to solve it. I'm just going to make this company and make it happen. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the short way of saying it. It was, a lot of years and a lot of trial and error and figuring out how to do that. And over the time, we've sort of coalesced into what we think this could be and how it could work. And having a startup, you have to be adaptable and flexible and figure out what the industry need is. And so we've done that over the years. And our mission has always been the same. We think that there needs to be gender equity in the workforce. We think that there needs to be a pathway for women, for all people really, but we focus primarily on people who consider themselves women, to create and chart their own career journeys and to have all of those options open to them. And only if that happens will there be gender equity in the workforce, because otherwise there's just too many ways in which, particularly for women, it becomes a struggle at certain points in time. And if you have to opt out, then it's really hard to opt back in.
Yeah. Yeah. So the second shift tagline is make work work for you. Why is this not like any other job site out there?
Well, we're very specifically focused, like I said, on high level women. And what that means is if you consider yourself a woman, if you have 8+ years of experience in the workforce. So we're not for women who are just coming out of college. If you're along in your career path, the majority of the women in our network are, somewhere between 35 and 45 years old. And so you're in your mid-career when oftentimes family issues come up. I mean, we've seen this just writ large with COVID. This is a really tricky time for women to stay engaged in the workforce. And so we want to solve it for this particular group of women so that those women have a pathway to continue in their careers, rise up into positions of power, and have more of a pipeline to senior executives.
Yeah. So let's talk about that, the current climate. We're recording this while we still face a lot of uncertainty with the pandemic. Some days feel semi-normal. Others we're scrambling to have to like schedule COVID tests because we get an email, our kids have been exposed at the school or the daycare, and there's just so many moving parts, right? So what are the issues you're seeing in this space of working women, and how is the second shift a really helpful partner in keeping women employed during this time?
Well, there are days that feel really good, and there are positives and negatives. And I am a relentlessly optimistic person. So I like to look at everything through the lens of, okay, well, this was an opportunity. And how is this good? And not how is this a complete shit show? So on the negative side, more women left the workforce in the past 18 months than basically ever. So it's been a nightmare. If you are in a working family, you know that. If you have school-age children, you know that this has been just a disaster and wiped away all of the gains that women made. On the flip side, if we're going to look at the positive of that, Gina, my partner, and I have been advocating since the beginning of the second shift to corporate clients and to any businesses that these needs are real and that the business world has to adapt in their hiring strategies if they want to attract and retain women. So the good thing is that we're in a position where COVID forced everything to the surface. We've seen these numbers. We've seen women leave the workforce. There is a labor shortage. Companies are forced to do that thing that we've wanted them to do, which before they kind of, why change it? Why bother? And now it's not just women, it's everybody who wants to have a more flexible schedule and everybody who sees the need for things like paid leave and universal pre-K and just all of the social structure that needs to be changed. So that's the positive. There is going to be real systemic and structural change to the way the workforce is. We're in a really weird moment right now where it's all happening at the same time. So there's just so much churn, and I'm hopeful for the future and just kind of got to ride out the wave and see where this all lands and keep the fight going. And to your last point, we're a really good solution for companies because everybody needs to hire. I mean, there is a major labor shortage. Everyone needs to hire. So what we're hearing from clients is that the need is so crazy that they even need to hire more recruiters to bring in more people because they have so many jobs that are open. So in the meantime, three things. One, it gives women in particular, our members and just women in general, more space to advocate for what they need because companies are so desperate to hire that you can ask for things that maybe you wouldn't have gotten or you wouldn't have felt that you had the opportunity to ask for, like flexibility or remote work or different benefits. And then companies are looking to fill jobs even just in the stopgap. So all the women who are freelancers and consultants who want short-term gigs, they can go in and fill those jobs, do a great job, stay if you want to stay, leave if you want to take the next opportunity. That's great for women. And then just in general, in the terms of the way that companies think about hiring, they're coming to us in as industry experts because we've been doing this for so long, and we really understand hybrid working and really, really understand what working families need. So we can help guide their policies as they're thinking about their strategy for hiring and retaining women and families and everybody.
Got it. Yeah. Would you say right now the ball is in the job seeker's court?
Definitely talent wins right now. And anyone who thinks otherwise will either have to pay a lot of money to keep their talent, will have to, take what they can if they're not willing to change their practices. But it is in the ball of talent. That said, don't ask for so much that it's unrealistic. You want to be on that line between asking for what's reasonable and being magnanimous. So I heard a good anecdote today. A woman we were placing got hired, and there was a difference between, I think ultimately wound up after tax like $7,000. But it was the difference between there being, two different numbers between the start of her salary. So it was either a 4 or a 5, right? So her ego could have gone with, I want to push for more. But she was really smart. And she said, at the end of the day, it was a little bit of money. It wasn't, $7,000 and her salary wasn't a huge amount of money. So what was great was she said, look, I'm sure you need to keep this in that range for your bosses to make sure that you come in on what, looks like you got a good deal. So I'll be generous. I won't push for it. And later you'll be able to help me out with something I need.
Nice.
It's a good lesson. And, this is a time where everyone can push for whatever they want and everyone's asking for the moon. But sometimes you need to also be aware of how it makes you seeming greedy or seeming like you're asking for too much. And women are always trained to ask for too little. And we were told to ask for everything. And so there's that fine line between just knowing when you can make somebody else look good and make yourself look good by just taking a step back and being, like I said, magnanimous, I guess is the right word.
Right. And looking at the bigger picture for that too, right?
Exactly. The bigger picture, do you want this job? Do you want them to like you? Do you want to stay here for a long time? Do you want to be rehired, or do you want to come in and there's, maybe some weird feelings or resentment?
Sure. Yeah. I like that approach. I think negotiations are always a little bit tricky, but having that perspective of like, I'm going to look at this from a longer term stance and how I want my reputation to be viewed is interesting and a nice approach, I think, to look at it.
It's kind of always good to have a little like chip in your corner that you could use at another time, instead of putting everything all up front.
Right.
And you don't have that much position to maneuver later.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about the Great Resignation a little bit and its effect on employment for women. So you did mention you feel like, and I mean, this has been written, it's not just your opinion, but we have gone back 30-ish years in our efforts and headway that we've made in the workforce. But also it's potentially opened up employers' eyes and minds as to what's needed for support in women at work. So I'm curious if you have any additional thoughts on this. You're in this space day in and day out. Let's talk about the Great Resignation a little bit.
It's fascinating. I mean, when you take a step backwards out of having been in this world for so long, and in my role in the business, I do a lot of the content, but I also do a lot with the like policy and politics as well, when there's anything that we can do to help push an agenda forward. So I've been in this mix, and I'm kind of a political junkie anyway, but to see the change happening where you're watching both resignation of people at all levels, and also what's going on in the government, from the government perspective, and the care spending bill and all of these things that people are pushing for. If you look at it from above, you're like, how is this going to be what is this going to look like when we get on the other side? But it's a fascinating place to be in now. I mean, everyone has known that there were, we always said there were a bunch of pillars that really need to happen to support working parents. And it's universal pre-K, it's paid leave, and it's childcare. And a lot of those things right now are missing. And without those things, women can't go back to work and consistently. And it's not just only COVID. If you don't have affordable childcare, then you can't go back to work because you can't afford the childcare. If without government subsidies for childcare and funding for childcare, then you can't, there's no one was going to be able to afford to be a childcare provider because you get paid more to work in Starbucks. So it's this cycle. It's a vicious cycle of everything happening at the same time. Like I said, I'm very curious to see how it all plays out. We're working with people from Time's Up. We're working with people from the Paid Leave US who are arguing and lobbying right now for paid leave, which is it's a huge aspect of need for working families. A lot of women leave the workforce around the birth of a child. It costs employers 150% of a full-time salary to rehire somebody if that person leaves. So it is to everyone's benefit for there to be some sort of safety net. And I think that all of those things working together will be a strong foundation to build back into a new future where there's gender equity, where people have more freedom, where you don't always have to feel like you're working to pay for your children's daycare or childcare. You have children, you know how this goes. It's wildly expensive.
It sure is. Yeah.
And, everybody does the calculation at some point, and if it's not worth it to work, and that unfortunately falls on women a lot. And so that's a huge part of the Great Resignation. 3 million women left the workforce in the last 18 months. It's an enormous amount of people. And you can say it was remote school, but it's not only remote school because most kids are back in school. If you have kids under 5, they're not. If you can't afford childcare because your kids don't go to kindergarten yet, they're not in school. If you're pregnant and you don't have leave, you're out of work.
I think it came to a head because of that, but I think it's been an issue, as you said, for a long time.
You could make it work before. People found ways to make like Frankenstein's monster of childcare and family care. And then all of a sudden you take those things away and all you're left with is seeing how it doesn't work. And no longer are people willing to just make do. And I think there's a tremendous opportunity for companies to fill that void, for the federal government to fill that void, because it can't only be private enterprise. And the people who do that, who do a good job at it, who are willing to adapt and be progressive and flexible and know that they need to support their employees, they're going to win. Because in this moment in time, in this Great Resignation, if somebody is going to pay for you to go to college and give you a child care credit, why wouldn't you go work for them? And you're not going to go work for the company that doesn't. And it's hard on small businesses that can't offer that. And that's where the government needs to come in and provide that support for all those small businesses that aren't able to be Amazon. Otherwise, we'll just be a country that's run by, a few big businesses. And that's it.
Right. And not to mention the fact that I think this demographic in particular, mothers, they bring such a perspective to the table. They bring such a talent to the table. Being a working mom is not easy. It is really, really hard. You are able to juggle so many important things in life. You get really good at being efficient. I mean, there are so many amazing qualities that they will lose in talent if they're not able to bring back this diverse group.
You have to have women in powerful leadership positions to make decisions that then affect generations below. So without that structure, which is, like I said, the fight for gender equity, because without those women in that leadership, we've seen it from the board level, from the C-suite level. If you don't have those people, you're not going to have decisions made that are going to positively affect working families. I love now seeing people like Pete Buttigieg and seeing like men also out there saying, I want the same thing too. I want to work flexibly. I loved being home with my kids for the past 18 months and I'm not going back because I want to be able to be there after school. That's amazing. That's wonderful. It's not just women. Statistically speaking, it falls more to women than it does to men to take on the burden of, invisible labor and family life. But more and more men have seen A, the imbalance in their family lives, and B, that they want the same things, that there was really something beautiful in that. And we are making different choices. But yeah, if you don't have women in the workforce, you don't have women who can rise up into senior leadership, no one's going to make decisions that are better for working families than working mothers.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. All right. Well, my first experience with the second shift actually was from an employer perspective. And then I decided
Isn't that funny how we work? Yes. This happens all the time. I love it. It's such a great ecosystem of women who start off as, I can't tell you how many people start off as employers, then they become second shift members, or they're members, and then they go get a full-time job and they hire other women back. It's such a terrific pay it forward community.
Yes, I agree. Because once I had been on the employer side, I decided to also join as a member, kind of like you're saying, because I thought the opportunities sounded really interesting and unique. So would you say the majority of opportunities are for those listening who maybe have never heard of second shift or are not members yet? Are they part-time, full-time, consultative, permanent? I think women listening could probably benefit from both ends of the membership. Like maybe some are thinking for themselves and others are thinking, hey, this would be great for the organization I work with. Who should join and why?
We have a little bit of everything. We have opportunities from one-off, quick little freelance gigs to ongoing part-time roles, to large-scale consultative projects, to full-time jobs, which now are increasingly more flexible and remote or hybrid. So that changes a lot of the location bias people used to have before. So there's something for everybody. I would say we do more in the project-based world than we do in the full-time world. But if the right project comes along, we'll take it. If we think that the women we work with want those opportunities, we take them. We don't take, what we do is we really cater to making sure that our marketplace is balanced. That's how it works. So if you are a person in the second shift, it's a free membership to join. You sign up, you apply. If you have the right background and experience, which is pretty much 8 years-ish experience and up, and you worked in marketing, finance, HR, web services, creative services, legal, we check your references. We have a very rigorous vetting process. So once you're in our network, we just serve you up job opportunities. You like them, you apply for the job, great, you get the job, and then we get paid. But it's free to join, and it's free for employers to post jobs. You only pay if you meet somebody and you match with them. And we work with all sorts of employers, from large-scale tech and finance firms to small startups. And I love how many women have gone off and started their own entrepreneurial ventures like you, and now are seeing them scale and grow during COVID. And we can help them grow by also providing them with best-in-class talent, because you may not be able to hire somebody at, say, your skill level, but you can hire them on a part-time basis, and you may not need them as a full-time role. You just need them on an ongoing part-time partner.
Right. Yeah. I love it. There is something for everyone. And I like how a lot of these full-time opportunities coming up are becoming more flexible, are becoming more in line with the values that Second Shift has, right, from its beginning mission.
It's funny, we used to have to convince a lot of clients to work this way and convince them of the benefit of having somebody who didn't necessarily live in that area, saying you get a diversity of voices, you get a diversity of opinion, you get somebody with a even deeper background and skills and experience. And they would say, no, we need somebody who lives here and, can come into the office. And now we're like, oh, we can hire from anywhere. We can hire people who, live across the country, and, they now know how to do it. So it's like, we've been saying this for so many years. Now, all of a sudden you're like, oh, light bulb. Like, oh, it's funny how that works, isn't it?
Somebody's job just got a whole lot easier over there.
Yeah. But yes, it's a huge benefit for all of our members and in general for working women and working families.
Yeah. Well, what are your thoughts on where we're headed 5, 10, 20 years from now? Like, will we all be working remotely? Will we still have this 9-to-5 model? What are you thinking?
I don't know. I like going into an office. I like the camaraderie and I like being around people. I understand how hard it is for managers and for people to make rules that seem like the best rule for a team, but some people don't want that opportunity, that those rules. And I think that's part of that Great Resignation, right? It's not one size fits all, but you also can't cater to everybody. In 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years, I think we're going to have much more reliance on digital products and communication. Probably there'll be a lot fewer business trips. People will be able to work from anywhere. And it's not going back to what it was. What it's going toward, I hope it's more inclusive. I hope it's more family friendly, women friendly, and that it usually shakes out somewhere in the middle. So we just have to wait and see how that works in the next few years. But I'm really positive and optimistic that this version of work is not going backwards in time. I just don't think I think there's too many people pushing who don't want it and have seen another option. And I don't see it going back.
All right. Well, good. On that note, we are going to head over to our lightning round where I just asked you.
This sounds exciting.
It is. Yeah.
What if I don't have a fast answer? What if it takes me a minute to think of it? What if I'm not fast like lightning?
We can edit that out.
Okay, fine. Good. Thank you.
All right. So here I'm going to ask you some questions, totally random, just for fun, just so our listeners can get to know you a little bit more on a personal level. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. What book are you reading right now?
I'm reading the love songs of W.E.B. Du Bois. And it was an Oprah pick, and I'm not usually a huge Oprah pick fan. It's really long. It's fantastic. I love it so much. And it's like brought me into an entire other world that is captivating. And I'm just trying to read it slowly so I can live in it for longer.
Ooh, it sounds like a nice escape.
It is. It's hard. It's a hard book too. There's a lot of like harsh truth, but it's written so poetically that you just want to stay in it.
Nice. Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
Definitely an extrovert.
All right. If you could go on vacation tomorrow anywhere in the world, where would it be and why?
I don't know the answer to this because I want to go anywhere right now. I'll go anywhere. I don't even really care. But I am trying to plan a Christmas trip right now for me and my kids. And I really thinking I want to take them to Paris. I would love to go and just like really get transported to somewhere that's not the same 6 blocks that I've been living in. And I love Paris. And so I think that would be a fun trip. I think they probably don't think it's as fun. I have a 9-year-old and an 11-year-old boy, but too bad. That's what mom wants.
Yes. All right. Nail salon, hair salon, or spa. You can only pick one to visit for the rest of your life. Which one is it?
This is the hardest question that anyone has ever asked me. Honestly, that's like choosing a child. I don't know the answer because if I get like crazed if my hair color isn't done properly, I'm going to have to choose hair salon because I could probably do my own nails if like push came to shove, although I'm kind of really anal about my nails being done weekly. But I don't think I could live without my hair color. Is that the most popular answer? Because I feel like that's like probably got to win.
So I'm going to say it's my answer. But
I mean,
it's not the most popular. The most popular answer, I believe, has been spa.
Interesting.
I
Okay.
know. Maybe these
Fascinating.
people are thinking like full service spa where they do your hair and
They
nails.
might
I
have
don't
hair and
know.
makeup,
Yes.
hair and nails. Maybe they're trying to cheat the system here. I'm trying to be honest.
All right. What's your cocktail of choice?
Reposado tequila shaken on the rocks with lime juice.
Okay, that was a very like you knew that answer like right there.
I pretty quick on that one. I also do like champagne on ice in the summer. That's like a favorite of mine too.
Oh, on ice. I've never
Yeah,
had it on ice.
it's really
Okay.
good.
Okay.
Kind
And
of
what's
it's like a champagne spritzer.
yeah, yeah. And what's one app you cannot live without?
I want to say, I guess I'd probably be lying if I didn't say Instagram, but honest because I really enjoy it. And also, but I'm going to go with like Net-a-Porter. Makes me so
Tell,
happy.
tell us.
Net-a-Porter. I like Instagram. Like I'm like a scroller. Like my like zone out mental place is less social media and more like online shopping. Like I don't even buy anything. I just love the scroll.
I don't even know what this is. Can you tell us what
Net-a-Porter.
this is? Yeah.
It's like an online department store.
Oh,
But
okay.
I don't go shopping anymore. So I just like buy things and have them delivered to my house. And then I feel guilty about it, but then I get to try it on and then send it back. It's like the weird, it's
You
a
have
weird
like
joy.
your personal fitting room happening over there.
Exactly.
All right. Well, before we head out, please tell our listeners where they can find you, where they can sign up for the second shift.
You can sign up for the second shift by going to www.thesecondshift.com. And second, spelled out, second shift. And I'm available if anyone has any questions, comments, concerns. You can always email me directly, jenny@thesecondshift.com. And I'd love to hear from you. We love you, Marissa, love your listeners. I'm so proud of you for doing this. It's such a cool thing to have started. And I'm so happy that you asked me to be part of it.
Thank you. Well, thank you for being here. Yes, this was such a good conversation, and I know one that will be so impactful for those listening.
Thank you so much.
You've been listening to the Mama Work It podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this episode and would love if you could take a quick minute to leave me a review on whichever platform you're listening from, and maybe even send a note to a fellow mama friend recommending it. Reviews and recs help this podcast grow and reach more like-minded, awesome moms. And if you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click that button so we can stay in touch, girl. By the way, if you haven't checked out the Mama Work It website, please do. There are lots of free resources and great articles there that can help you with the juggle of work life, mom life, wife life, fill in the blank life. So head on over. Thanks again for being part of the tribe. I'll see you soon, but in the meantime, keep on working it, mama.